Do we ever miss?
Never.
Yeah, it is all too often that we find out there is a lot of space around a deer that is not occupied by a deer, and it is easy to put a bullet there. Yeah, we all miss. But you know, our philosophy on Tecomate TV is not to show a show that doesn't have a kill, but basically. I mean, we will if there's something of value in it, but we feel like if our viewer's going to invest 30 minutes in watching the show, that he needs to be rewarded by a kill and the recovery of that deer. But on occasion, we do miss, and sometimes we miss and then get him. And I know that, Mickey, that happened to you in Iowa.
Thankfully.
Thankfully. Sometimes we miss and then miss again. Yeah. That happened to all of us, actually.
That's right.
Blaine, what's your most spectacular miss?
Well, I'll tell you what, probably the most memorable I had was, I was hunting in Iowa. This was been probably about 8 to 10 years ago. Probably one of the biggest deer, typical deer I've ever seen. And it was this, I was hunting with his outfitter, and I thought he was pulling my leg because he said, I got a huge buck out, he's a monster, and he went out and showed me this rub, and I'm not exaggerating, this thing was like this big. I couldn't even hardly put my hands around it, and it was torn up overhead high, and I was like, this guy's pulling my chain. I said, he's been out there scraping on this thing.
He uses John Deere bucket to do this.
Yeah, lo and behold, I'm talking about that afternoon, this big buck came out, just a monster. He had to been, you know, 180, 190 class, typical, just a 12-pointer, just a stud. Came out in a little food plot, just perfectly broadside. I have my, you know, my slug gun. I was dialed in at 100 yards, you know, just nailing tacks in there. I put it on there, waited to his leg, went for a shot. The deer just, like he hadn't been hit, and just took off. I was like, what the heck? What happened, you know?
Woofed it.
I was like, what? I said, that was a chip shot, you know? How'd that miss, you know? I was almost in tears.
You looked at his antlers. That's what got you.
Hey, that's where the bullet went.
I still, this thing, you know, really, when I went back, I realized what had happened. I'd had a darn.
Here comes the excuse.
That's how that
You gotta have an excuse.
it was a limb. I couldn't see it, you know, from
Jeff,
my scope.
that's Jeff's excuse. You can't use that one.
Always
I had a limb about that big around. I shot right through it.
Oh no, that is a killer when you got a limb close
man,
by.
I was just.
We
sick,
do
man.
need Jeff Foxworthy here for this conversation.
Yeah,
because
we do.
He could take the entire time. No.
That deer is one of the biggest deer I've ever seen in my life. And the nice thing is, I get to share the miss with you and then hear about it for the next decade.
Jeff, please forgive me on that. Forgive me on that. He has used a limb excuse before in Kansas. But,
I thought about mounting that thing.
What's your most memorable?
I've never missed.
You have never missed. Yeah, you never lied either, have you?
No, we touched on it before. Some of my early days of bow hunting, I was out there every day. And I hunted in an area where there were some really good bucks, and I saw some really good bucks. I had some fantastic opportunities, and I shot under them, over them. And the good thing is I never wounded a buck with my bow. I never had. I either killed them or missed them completely, but I missed more than I killed.
That doesn't make good sense, does it? If you're missing, you'd think you'd hit the edges sometimes.
And after I got pretty much over the buck fever stage, it was, you know, just misjudging distances with the recurve especially, and then getting in. But
easy
even
to do.
with my compound, and when you start using sights and things like that, easy to do.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of bucks that are not on the wall that probably could have been.
Mickey, I know where you do a lot of deer drives. Misses are part of that.
Yeah, missing and unfortunately wounding too probably happens more often with that hunting technique. You know, running deer and you got trees that jump in the way. You know?
Moving trees. And you've shot a lot of Pope and young deer with your bow, but you must have missed somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about those. Definitely have.
Definitely have.
Yeah.
And Manny, I know I have seen tape after tape of, I won't say that.
That's right.
But
that's right.
more than one. More than one. Yeah.
Look, on film, off film, I've done my share of missing. I've done my share of, you know, like you say,
good shots,
making good shots and bad shots. It happens. I've missed some, like everybody else, some giant bucks, big mature bucks, and I've missed some does, and they all hurt. You pick up the pieces and move on.
You know, honestly, I've missed more does than bucks.
Sure.
I get a little careless on doe shooting sometimes, and I have been. But the most memorable miss of my life, and I know we're running long on this, but the most memorable miss was one of the most impressive bucks I ever had. You've got a buck mounted in your office from Canada. I declare that is the deer I missed.
Yeah,
that is him I missed. It was the biggest 9-pointer I've ever seen in my life in Canada. And I passed him up when he first came in because I just killed a book class deer, and I could shoot 2 at that time in Saskatchewan in the early years. And when that deer turned and looked at me, my heart almost jumped out of my chest. I thought I said he's a 170 class 9, but I was hunting what they thought was a 190 12. When that buck turned and looked at me, I thought he had short main beams from the side. When he turned and looked, he was 25 inside, and his main beams came around and almost touched. And I had a heart attack, and I just threw those binoculars down, and I came up. When I did, he punched the doe in the rear with his antlers and started running, and I flat missed him. And I have been sick to this day. I'm still sick
having
about
nightmares.
that. I'm still having it. If that deer goes missing in your office, you'll know where it went.
Hey, David, you just got to get over it.
I got to get over it. That was only 40 years ago. Why
Yeah,
would I
exactly.
get over it? We all miss, but it's a part of hunting. But you go back out, you go out and sight your rifle back in and go do it again.